I'm Sarah Chun, 29, from Miami, Florida. I created a makeup brand that nobody believed in, especially my own family. 3 weeks ago, my mom texted me. Sarah, she wrote, her words cold through the screen. Don't come to Thanksgiving dinner this year. We're having important guests over. People who actually made something of themselves. My dad didn't even text. He just sent one word through mom. Grow up first. I put my phone down, my hands shaking, and made a choice. I wasn't going to beg for their table scraps anymore. I stayed in my tiny apartment while they celebrated with their fancy friends. I was in my kitchen, mixing lip gloss formulas until my fingers were stained pink. That evening, I turned on my laptop, and there it was. My company Glow Dreams splashed across every beauty blog. My new lip collection had just sold out in 24 hours, breaking online beauty sales records. I sat there alone, watching my brand trending worldwide, proving them so wrong. The next morning, my doorbell wouldn't stop ringing. Guess who was standing at my door? All hugs and smiles, acting like they'd always supported my dreams. But I discovered something more powerful than their love could ever give me. Want to know how I turned their rejection into my empire? Stay tuned because the story gets wild. If you've ever been told you're not ready, share your story below. Hit subscribe and the bell so you never miss what happens next. Growing up in the Chin family meant living in shadows. My father, Robert Chin, owned the biggest restaurant chain in Miami, the kind where celebrities ate and cameras flashed. My mother, Susan Chen, was a famous food critic. Her reviews could close restaurants overnight. My older sister, Amy Chen, was their crown jewel, a chef whose restaurants had waiting lists months long. My younger brother, Kevin Chen, wasn't far behind, a business major who already managed 3 of Dad's locations. Then there was me, Sarah, the weird one, mixing lipstick in mason jars while they talked about profit margins and 5-star reviews. Our family dinners were like job interviews. Every Sunday we'd sit in the dining room, expensive plates clinking, and I'd feel invisible. Sarah, why can't you be serious like Amy? Dad would say, cutting his steak, barely glancing my way. Mom would add, Kevin's already making real money. What are you doing with those art supplies? My dreams about makeup and beauty were laughed off as silly hobbies. It's not a real business, Amy once said, rolling her eyes while checking her phone for restaurant reservations. Kevin barely noticed me, too busy bragging about his latest promotion. I'd sit quiet, staring at my food, knowing they'd never understand. Those dinners hurt me, but not how they wanted. I'd run to my room, watching makeup tutorials, dreaming of colors that could make people feel beautiful. They saw my passion as playing pretend, something I'd forget when I got serious about life. I was 15 when Mom handed me a business school brochure saying, "This is real success." I threw it in the trash the moment she left. My rebellion started small, fueled by their constant put-downs. They thought they were helping me grow up, but they were teaching me I'd never belong. The only person who saw me was my aunt, Lisa Park. She wasn't like the rest of them, a makeup artist who'd worked with movie stars. She'd sit with me for hours, teaching me about color theory and skin tones. "You have magic in your hands, Sarah," she'd say, her voice warm, eyes bright with hope. "Don't let anyone dull your sparkle." When I was 16, she gave me my first professional makeup kit, its brushes soft and perfect. "This world needs artists like you," she told me, pressing it into my hands. It was the first time I felt seen. But Lisa's love couldn't protect me from the rest. At 17, during one terrible dinner, Dad tore into me about my unrealistic dreams. "You're wasting your talent," he said, his words cutting deep like knives. Amy jumped in. "Maybe if you tried harder, you'd actually succeed at something." I pushed back from the table, heart racing, and walked out. Mom didn't stop me. Kevin didn't look up. That night, I sat in my room holding Lisa's makeup kit, promising myself I'd show them wrong. Not for them, but for me. High school wasn't much easier. My teachers loved my art projects, but my grades dropped because I spent every free moment learning about makeup chemistry. My friends call me the makeup girl, half joking, half worried. I didn't care. I was building something bigger than their opinions, something that could help people feel confident and beautiful. But every time I came home, my family's judgment felt heavier. "You're not built for this," Mom said once, her voice final like she'd already decided my future. I stopped talking about my dreams with them after that. By age 18, I felt trapped. The Chens wanted a chef, a business owner, a manager, not a girl obsessed with making people glow. Lisa was my only support. "They don't get to choose your path," she said one afternoon, sitting in her studio, her hands gentle from years of artistry. She told me stories of her own battles, how she'd ignored the doubters to work with famous people. "You'll find your tribe," she promised. I held on to that hope even as my family's words echoed in my head, telling me I'd never amount to anything. My first year of college, I made the biggest choice of my life. I was 19, studying business at Miami University, but my heart wasn't in spreadsheets or textbooks. I spent every spare moment creating lip balms in my dorm room, convinced they could change how people felt about themselves. My room was chaos, filled with tubes, oils, and color samples scattered on every surface. I wasn't chasing degrees. I was chasing a dream. But that dream didn't fit the Chen family plan. So one spring morning, I walked into the dean's office and dropped out. The explosion at home was immediate. Dad called me into the living room, his face red with anger. "You're throwing your future away on some fantasy," he yelled, slamming his coffee cup down. Mom stood behind him, arms crossed. "This is completely irresponsible, Sarah," she said. "You think you know better than everyone." Amy, who was visiting from her fancy restaurant, just shook her head. "Good luck with that disaster," she muttered like I was hopeless. Kevin was the cruelest. "You're embarrassing our whole family," he snapped, his voice full of disgust. "They didn't just disagree, they abandoned me. No college money, no help, no safety net. I was completely alone." I packed my things and moved into a tiny studio apartment, the kind with broken air conditioning and noisy neighbors. My savings were almost nothing, barely enough for 1 month's rent. But then my aunt, Lisa Park, called me. She was getting older, her voice softer than before, but her words were strong. "I believe in your gift, Sarah," she said. Days later, she gave me $8,000, everything she'd saved for years. "Build something beautiful," she wrote in a card with shaky handwriting. It was the last big gift she gave me before she got sick. She passed away 2 months later, and I carried her faith like a light. With Lisa's money, I bought ingredients, small bottles, and a cheap computer. I called my project Glow. Dreams, inspired by the confidence I wanted to give people. But Miami wasn't exactly a startup paradise for makeup brands. And I was nobody, just a college dropout with colorful dreams. To pay rent, I worked nights cleaning office buildings, scrubbing floors while security guards watched TV. My days were spent in the library, learning about cosmetic safety and ingredient sourcing. I'd test lip colors on my arm between shifts, my skin rainbow-colored from experiments. The loneliness was crushing. My old classmates were posting about internships and parties while I was eating ramen noodles in a room that smelled like cleaning supplies. I'd lie awake wondering if Dad was right, if I was chasing something impossible. But then I'd look at Lisa's makeup kit, the one she gave me, and read her note inside the case. "Keep creating." It was enough to push away the doubts, at least for another day. I started reaching out to beauty bloggers, sending my lip balms to anyone who'd try them. Most ignored me completely. "Makeup's oversaturated," one influencer told me, tossing my package aside. "Stick to something easier." But I kept mixing, kept testing colors. I learned to handle rejection, to focus on the chemistry and the art. My first batch was terrible. Colors that looked muddy, textures that felt wrong, but it was mine. Every mistake taught me something new, and I was getting better. Months turned into a year. I was 20, broke and tired, but Glow Dreams was becoming real. I had a working formula, a small collection that actually made lips look amazing. It was proof I wasn't crazy. I started an Instagram page, posting swatches and begging for feedback from anyone who'd listen. A few beauty lovers responded, offering suggestions. One even shared my post with her followers. It wasn't much, but it was a beginning. I was building something piece by piece, with only Lisa's memory cheering me on. The Chens never called, not even once. I'd see Amy's restaurant featured in magazines or Kevin's picture in Dad's business newsletters. Mom's restaurant reviews were everywhere, and Dad's chain kept expanding. They were winning while I was barely surviving. But I didn't want their life anymore. I wanted mine. Glow Dreams was my rebellion, my way of saying I didn't need their approval to matter. I just needed to keep creating one lip color at a time. One rainy afternoon at a coffee shop, I met Jake Rodriguez. I was 22, hunched over my laptop in a corner table, surrounded by empty coffee cups and napkins covered in color swatches. Glow Dreams was still just hope, a small collection that barely paid my bills. I was showing my lip colors to anyone who'd look, but most people walked away quickly. Then Jake, a guy with curly hair and paint-stained fingers, sat down across from me. "You're the lip gloss girl, right?" he asked, his voice interested, not mocking. He was a graphic designer, fresh from a failed art project, and he saw something special in my colors. "This could really work," he said, pointing at my samples. For the first time in years, I wasn't fighting alone. We started collaborating, spending long nights in my tiny apartment we called our lab. Jake brought design skills and social media knowledge. I brought endless creativity and determination. We redesigned the packaging, aiming for something no other brand had created. 6 months later, we had a website and a collection that didn't embarrass me anymore. Real progress. Jake suggested we find investors. I was scared. Miami wasn't exactly Silicon Valley for beauty, but he knew someone, Maria Santos, a partner at Bloom Capital. We got a meeting and I spent days practicing my pitch, my voice shaking as I rehearsed in front of my bathroom mirror. Maria was tough, no nonsense, asking questions that cut straight to the money. "You've got heart," she said finally, leaning back in her chair. "I'm in for $40,000. It wasn't huge, but it was enough to officially launch Glow Dreams. With Maria's investment, we rented a small studio, bought better equipment, and hired 2 part-time helpers. Jake and I poured everything into our first big launch, a lip collection for a local boutique chain. We worked 16-hour days mixing, testing, packaging, and designing marketing materials. I barely slept, living on energy drinks and the excitement of being so close to something real. Jake kept me laughing, making silly faces when I got too stressed. "We're not saving the world, Sarah," he'd say, grinning, "but we're definitely making lips look amazing." Maria checked in weekly, pushing us to hit our goals. I felt like I was finally building something that mattered. Then everything crashed down. The boutique launch was our big test, and we failed completely. The lip colors separated, leaving customers with oily, streaky messes. The stores pulled our products, and we lost most of our investment. I sat in our studio staring at returned tubes of ruined lipstick, feeling sick to my stomach. "We're finished," I told Jake, my voice empty. I'd lost Lisa's money, my savings, and 3 years of my life, and it was all garbage. I thought of Dad's words, "You're throwing your future away." Maybe he was right all along. Jake wouldn't let me give up. "Mistakes teach us," he said, tossing a broken tube aside. "We know what went wrong now. We fix it." I wanted to quit, but his stubborn hope wouldn't let me. We went back to basics. Jake researched packaging flaws, bad sealing, and temperature problems. I focused on the formulas, reworking oil ratios, and preservative systems. Maria didn't pull her money, but her calls got shorter, her emails colder. We couldn't afford another disaster. I started posting in makeup forums, begging for advice from chemists around the world. One woman in California sent me a research paper on long-lasting lip formulas. It was risky, but it gave me an idea. We pivoted completely, creating a new lip color with better staying power and smoother application. It meant throwing away months of work, but Jake was excited. "This is the breakthrough," he said, sketching new package designs on a whiteboard. The pivot was brutal. We were broke again, sharing a cheap apartment to save money. I took freelance social media jobs to keep us going while Jake collected free samples from beauty suppliers. We tested the new formula on ourselves, asking friends to try colors until our lips were rainbow-colored from experiments. Slowly, it started working. The new lip colors lasted 8 hours, better than most expensive brands. We weren't safe yet, but we had a real chance. Jake and I became true partners, not just coworkers. He didn't care about my family's judgment or my lack of a business degree. He believed in Glow Dreams, and that kept me going when I doubted myself. We were creating something bigger than us, one failure at a time. For years later, Glow Dreams started getting noticed. I was no longer the broke dropout struggling to pay rent. Jake and I had turned our small studio into a real office with a team of 8, including chemists and a full-time social media manager. Our redesigned lip colors were lasting 10 hours, better than most high-end competitors. We landed our first major contract, a $300,000 deal to supply lip products for a popular beauty subscription box. It wasn't millions, but it was proof we could deliver quality. Soon, 3 more companies signed deals with us, a drugstore chain, an online retailer, and a spa network. Beauty magazines started mentioning Glow Dreams. Rising Star, one called us. I printed that review and hung it in my office, a reminder we were making progress. Maria, our investor, was impressed but demanding. "You're getting attention now," she told me during a video call, her voice all business. "Don't get comfortable." She pushed us to expand, to pitch bigger retailers. Jake and I spent weeks creating presentations for major beauty chains. I felt alive, like every sleepless night was finally worth it. For the first time, I thought my family might see me differently. Thanksgiving was approaching, and I imagined walking into their dinner, sharing Glow Dreams success stories. Maybe Dad would smile with pride. Maybe Mom would ask about my business. Maybe Amy and Kevin would stop treating me like a failure. I called home in late October, hoping to confirm my spot at the Thanksgiving table. Mom answered, her tone sharp and cold. "Sarah, we're hosting very important guests this year. Investors, restaurant owners, people who've actually succeeded," she said. "You're not ready to sit with them yet." I held the phone tighter, shocked. "What do you mean not ready?" I asked, my voice small. Dad got on the line. "Your little hobby isn't there yet," he said, his words like ice. "Come back when you have something real to show us." I tried to explain, to tell them about the subscription box deal, the magazine features, but Mom cut me off. "We'll see when you're on their level," she said. The phone went quiet. I stood in my office staring at my computer screen, my chest tight with hurt. Amy didn't even bother calling. Kevin, who I texted later, replied with just, "Focus on catching up to us." Their rejection burned, bringing back every dinner where they'd ignored me. I wasn't welcome at my own family's table because my business, my life's work, wasn't real enough for their important crowd. I could have begged, could have shown up anyway, but I was done asking for their love. I turned off my phone and sat down at my desk. That night, I threw myself into a new proposal for Beauty Empire, a major cosmetics company based in New York. They'd reached out after seeing our subscription box success, interested in our long-lasting lip formulas. Jake was nervous, they were huge, and we were still small. But I saw a chance to prove myself, not to my family, but to the world. I rewrote our pitch, showing how our lip colors could boost their sales by 25%. Jake handled the technical details, staying up with me to perfect every slide. Maria gave feedback, warning us Beauty Empire was tough. "They'll crush you if you're not perfect," she said. Days blended into nights as Thanksgiving got closer. While Miami filled with holiday decorations, I was glued to my laptop, tweaking presentations and running cost analyses. Jake brought takeout to the office, joking about our festive diet of cold pizza. I barely noticed the season. My family's rejection motivated me, but so did the subscription company's glowing review of our products. We were close to something huge. I could feel it building. On November 22nd, I sent Beauty Empire our complete proposal. Their director, Rachel Kim, replied within 2 hours, asking for a meeting on Thanksgiving Day. "Impressive work," she wrote. Let's see if you can deliver under pressure. I didn't tell my family about Beauty Empire. They didn't deserve to know. While they were preparing for their high society dinner, I was preparing to pitch the biggest deal of my career. Jake and I practiced until 2 a.m., testing every slide, preparing for every possible question. I wasn't just fighting for Glow Dreams anymore. I was fighting for all the years they called me a dreamer, a failure. Rachel's email was pinned to my computer screen, a light pulling me forward. Thanksgiving was tomorrow, and I was ready to bet everything on that meeting, even if it meant spending the holiday completely alone. On Thanksgiving Day, I sat alone in my apartment. The office was completely silent, just the hum of my laptop and the glow of the screen in our small Miami workspace. While my family celebrated with their VIP guests, I was deep in color charts, finalizing the Beauty Empire proposal. Jake had gone home to his grandmother's house, but I couldn't stop working. This deal was my chance to prove I was more than their unready daughter. I'd been awake since 5 a.m., triple-checking every number, every color sample. Our lip products could save Beauty Empire 25% on development costs, but they wanted perfection, and I was determined to deliver it. At 1 p.m., an email from Rachel Kim, Beauty Empire's director, hit my inbox. "Great proposal," she wrote, "but your color matching system needs improvement. Can you fix it by tonight?" My heart dropped. The color issue was our old enemy, the one that ruined our first launch. I called Jake, who was halfway through his grandmother's turkey dinner. "We have 8 hours," I said, my voice tight with panic. He didn't hesitate even for a second. "I'm coming over." By 2 p.m., he was back, coffee in hand, diving into the color charts. We tore apart the matching system, focusing on skin tone compatibility. I ran tests while he redesigned the color wheel, our screens glowing in the empty apartment. Hours flew by like minutes. I mixed new samples on my kitchen counter, my hands shaking from caffeine and nerves. Jake discovered a flaw in our undertone classification and suggested a new approach using color theory. "This could push accuracy to 95%, he said, his eyes bright with that same excitement I saw when we first met. I recalculated the matches, plugging in his improvements. The results looked incredible, better than incredible. At 9 p.m., we had a new system, more accurate and user-friendly than anything we'd built before. I typed up the changes, my fingers flying across the keyboard, and sent the updated proposal to Rachel at 10:23 p.m. "Here's the solution," I wrote, hitting send with butterflies in my stomach. I collapsed onto my couch, too excited to go to bed. The TV was on some local news channel talking about holiday shopping trends. Then, at 10:58 p.m., my phone buzzed. Rachel's name appeared on the screen. "Your solution is brilliant," her email said. "We're signing the contract. $180 million for Glow Dreams to supply lip products for our global launch. Congratulations, Sarah." I stared at those words, my breath stopping. $180 million. It wasn't just money. It was a revolution. I called Jake, who screamed so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. "We did it, Sarah," he shouted. I laughed, tears running down my face, feeling Lisa's pride in me from heaven. Before I could process it fully, the TV screen changed. "Breaking news," the anchor said, her voice excited. "Miami startup Glow Dreams has secured a $180 million contract with Beauty Empire, setting a record in the cosmetics industry." My name flashed across the screen. Sarah Chen, founder of Glow Dreams. They called us beauty innovators, our lip products a breakthrough in lasting color technology. I sat frozen, watching my face on television, my company's logo next to Beauty Empire's. The subscription box, the late nights, the failures, it all led to this moment. I'd done what my family said was impossible. I thought of Dad's voice. "Come back when you have something real." Mom's dismissal. "You're not ready yet." This was real. This was me proving them wrong on a stage they couldn't ignore or dismiss. I didn't call them. I didn't need to anymore. The world knew Glow Dreams now, and that was enough for me. I texted Jake. "We're officially big time." He replied with a single emoji, a crown. Maria called minutes later, her usually calm voice replaced with pure excitement. You just changed the beauty game, she said. Get ready for what comes next. I stayed in my apartment, rewatching the news clip, letting the weight of success sink in. The contract wasn't just money. It was validation for every doubt, every rejection, every night I'd question myself. It all disappeared. I wasn't the kid they dismissed at dinner anymore. I was Sarah Chun, and Glow Dreams was changing the rules of beauty. As the clock moved past midnight, I turned off the TV, my mind already racing toward our next collection. The world was watching, and I was just getting started with my empire. The morning after, my phone rang nonstop. By 7 a.m., my inbox was overflowing with messages from beauty magazines, industry reporters, and even some major competitors. Glow Dreams' $180 million deal with Beauty Empire was trending across all social media. Fashion blogs called us Miami's Beauty Revolution, and a popular podcast wanted an interview. I was still in my apartment, running on pure adrenaline and strong coffee, when Jake arrived grinning like crazy. We're viral, he said, showing me his phone screen. I smiled, but my brain was already planning next steps. Scaling production, hiring more chemists, keeping Beauty Empire happy with our work. Then my building's doorman called upstairs. Your family's here, he said simply. I froze completely. Dad, Mom, and Kevin stood in my lobby, dressed like they were attending a red carpet event. No Amy. She was probably too busy with her restaurants to bother showing up. I walked downstairs, my stomach twisting with old hurt. Dad reached out his hand. All bright smiles. Sarah, we saw the news everywhere, he said warmly. What an incredible achievement. Mom nodded, her expression gentler than I'd ever seen before. We're so proud of you, she added, her voice almost believable. Kevin, in an expensive suit, chimed in. This is amazing, Sarah. Really impressive stuff. I stood there, waiting for their real reason for coming. It didn't take long to appear. Kevin leaned closer, lowering his voice conspiratorially. I know some beauty investors who'd love to meet you, he said, his eyes calculating and sharp. I could set up meetings for Glow Dreams' benefit. There it was clear as day. They weren't here for me as a person. They wanted access to my success, my connections. I clenched my hands into fists, years of their dismissal flashing through my mind like a movie. The dinners where they'd ignored me completely. The years they'd called my dreams silly games. The Thanksgiving they'd locked me out. I wasn't their little girl anymore, begging for crumbs from their table. You're proud now? I asked, my voice steady, but ice cold. Dad raised an eyebrow like he hadn't expected me to push back at all. When I was cleaning offices to pay rent, where were you then? I turned to Mom. When I dropped out to build this, you said I was completely irresponsible. Kevin opened his mouth to speak, but I cut him off sharply. And you, Kevin, told me I was embarrassing the whole family. Now you want to play matchmaker with your investor buddies. The lobby went completely silent. Jake, standing by the elevator, gave me a small supportive nod like he knew this confrontation was inevitable. Dad tried to smooth things over with his lawyer voice. Sarah, we just want to support you now, he said, his tone condescending like I was still a teenager throwing a tantrum. I shook my head firmly. You didn't believe in me when it was hard and scary. You don't get to claim this victory now that it's easy and profitable. Mom's face got tight and defensive. We're your family, she said, as if that word erased years of rejection. I stepped closer, my voice low and controlled. Family doesn't tell you you're not ready for their table. Family doesn't abandon you when you're trying to build something meaningful. Kevin scoffed dismissively. You're being way too dramatic about this, he said, crossing his arms defensively. We're here now, aren't we? I looked at all three of them. Dad in his perfect suit, Mom with her journalist posture, Kevin with his calculated businessman smile. They hadn't changed at all inside. They saw Glow Dreams on the news and thought they could just walk in, rewrite our history, act like they'd always been my biggest supporters. You're here because the television told you to be, I said clearly. I built this without any of you. I don't need your connections or your approval anymore. The words felt like a huge weight lifting off my chest forever. For the first time in my life, I didn't care what they thought of me. Dad's face turned red with anger. You're making a big mistake, Sarah, he warned threateningly. You'll need us someday when this all falls apart. I almost laughed out loud. I needed you 10 years ago when I was alone and scared. I don't need you anymore. Mom reached out, her voice softer now, almost pleading. Let's talk this through over lunch, she said, gesturing toward the door. We can celebrate together properly. I shook my head firmly. I have work to do, I said, turning toward the elevator. You know the way out of here. Kevin muttered something nasty under his breath, but I didn't catch it clearly. I didn't care to hear it anyway. As they left looking defeated, Jake walked over holding 2 fresh coffees from the lobby cafe. That was absolutely badass, he said, handing me a steaming cup. I smiled, but my heart was still racing from adrenaline. Walking away from them felt final, like closing a heavy door I'd left open too long. I sat at my desk upstairs, the Beauty Empire contract glowing on my screen. Glow Dreams wasn't just a company anymore. It was mine, built from my failures, my late nights, my stubborn refusal to give up. I didn't need their lunch invitations or their fake praise. I had Jake, Maria, and a team that truly believed in me and my vision. That was more than enough for anyone. 8 months later, Glow Dreams became a household name across America. Our office buzzed with 30 new employees, and our lip products were sold in every major store chain. I was 30, no longer the kid mixing colors in mason jars. I stopped answering any calls from Dad, Mom, and Kevin. Their messages, polite at first then increasingly desperate, went completely unread. Amy never reached out once, probably too proud to admit she was wrong about me. After our final confrontation, I realized I didn't need their validation at all. I blocked their numbers and moved forward, my focus locked completely on building what I'd started from nothing. My world became richer, without their negativity. Jake was more than a business partner now. He was my closest friend, always ready with encouragement or a late-night brainstorm session. We'd spend evenings debating new product lines, our laughter echoing through the expanded office space. Maria, our investor, became like a mentor, guiding me through corporate politics with brilliant advice. You're stronger than most CEOs I work with, she told me once, her smile rare but completely genuine. Then there was Marcus Johnson, a talented photographer I met at a beauty conference. His passion for capturing confidence matched my drive perfectly, and soon our coffee meetings turned into something deeper and more meaningful. With him, I felt understood and appreciated, not judged or dismissed. I wanted to honor the one person who'd believed in me from the very beginning, my Aunt Lisa Park. Using Glow Dreams profits, I launched the Lisa Park Creative Fund, a $120,000 program for young artists pursuing beauty and makeup careers. At the opening ceremony, I stood before a crowd of aspiring makeup artists, holding the makeup kit Lisa gave me years ago. This is for dreamers who don't have anyone cheering them on, I said, my voice strong and clear. Marcus squeezed my hand from the audience, and Jake clapped loudest, his grin stretching from ear to ear. The first scholarship recipient, a shy 19-year-old with incredible color sense, reminded me of my younger self. I knew Lisa would have been incredibly proud of this moment. Looking back, I could see the true cost of my family's arrogance and blindness. They dismissed me as a failure, too caught up in their own success to see mine growing right in front of them. Now, they were the ones on the outside looking in, their calls going unanswered, their invitations completely ignored. I didn't celebrate their absence or gloat about my victory. I didn't need to anymore. My life was completely full now, a thriving company, a true partner in Jake, a wise mentor in Maria, and deep love with Marcus. Their absence didn't leave any void in my heart. It made space for people who truly valued me for who I was. The biggest lesson wasn't about winning or proving them wrong in the end. It was about knowing my worth didn't depend on their approval or anyone else's validation. I'd spent years chasing their respect and love, but every rejection, Every late night, every failure taught me I was always enough. Glow Dreams wasn't just a business success story. It was proof that my dreams had real value, that I could build something lasting and meaningful without their help or support. My family lost me forever, not because I failed them, but because they couldn't see me when it mattered most. That was their burden to carry, not mine anymore.